evolution.
Mm,
There was a movement started called social Darwinism, and the
okay.
motto was nature red in tooth and claw, as if nature is always bloody, as if nature is always about fighting and combat and war.
Is the political leadership we are observing in the last few decades has been very impactful in many ways, but may not be visionary. We
Mhm.
don't really see many leaders like, Lincoln, Nelson, or Gandhi in political leadership.
It's almost as if politics and business have become games, almost like sports, where the only thing that matters is winning or losing.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. Today we have Tom Morris joining us to discuss the lack of visionary leadership. And Tom is a very senior philosopher from Yale University. He is an author of many best-selling books, and he is very active in the business community where he advises political and business leadership. Tom, please welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, Tom, can you briefly tell us about you, and then we will get started?
Well, yeah, I was the first person in my family ever to go to college. And my mother wanted me to major in business, to have a practical career ahead of me, but I got captivated by philosophy and the study of religion as well. So I went to Yale University in two departments, philosophy and religious studies, got a double PhD, and went to teach philosophy of religion at the University of Notre Dame. I always have my Notre Dame cup here with me. But
Very
after
interesting.
yeah, after 15 years of being a professor, businesses started asking me, did the great philosophers ever talk about success? Or did the philosophers talk about how to deal with change? Or did the philosophers talk about culture? All these questions that I had not studied in graduate school, but I started looking into these things and I rediscovered the practical side of philosophy that had been forgotten, at least in America, for 100 years. So I've given over 1,000 business talks, maybe 1,200 to Fortune 500 companies, companies around the world, and I've learned what's on people's minds now. And suddenly, all of a sudden, people all over the world are turning to me for advice about leadership in the past couple of years. So it's an interesting time to be on your podcast and to talk about something like leadership vision. It's a great topic.
Thanks, Tom. The thing is very rare to see somebody who has done a lot of, both theoretical studies around philosophy and leadership to come into the business world. So I guess it's very exciting to have somebody like you to guide the leaders and kind of because people can understand business very easily, but leadership is something that doesn't it's not really taught in the college, right? And even if it is taught, it is like not very useful and practical, right? So that's why I think people like you step in. So today we are on to discuss a slightly serious topic, Tom, and that's why you're here. So let's get started. The first question that I would like to ask is, Tom, one of the personal observations I have made.
We've been investing in the wrong people. We've been promoting the wrong people into positions of leadership. Just because a person is able to get things done doesn't mean that that person has a broader vision for human good.
Is the political leadership we are observing in the last few decades has been very impactful in many ways, but may not be visionary. We don't really see many leaders like, Lincoln, Nelson, or Gandhi in political leadership. What has changed in the last few decades?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. The Hebrew Bible has a phrase in the book of Proverbs, without a vision, people perish. And I think that's what we're seeing all over the world right now. Somebody said to me not too long ago, well, since the mid 1940s, 1945, 1946, at least in many parts of the world, we've seen greater human flourishing. People have become more comfortable. Business has flourished. It's raised the standard of living for so many people. And as a result of this good thing, we have started forgetting other good things, like a vision even beyond growing material prosperity. What is our vision for human flourishing, for people to be their best and do their best in every part of the world, in every walk of life? You're right, we've lacked leaders who had that sort of vision. It's almost as if politics and business have become games, almost like sports, where the only thing that matters is winning or losing, and there's no vision beyond that. There's this gamification of politics around the world. There's this gamification of business, where business is looked at as a money machine. Those who start a business just to make as much money as they possibly can. I think
Right.
business should be looked at as an engine for human good, generally. And you're right, we don't have those kind of visionary leaders, at least in leadership positions around the world. Now, I hear people say wonderfully visionary things, but they're not in a position to make those things happen. I think we've been voting for the wrong people. We've been investing in the wrong people. We've been promoting the wrong people into positions of leadership. Just because a person is able to get things done doesn't mean that that person has a broader vision for human good. And so sometimes we just look at a person's track record. Has he managed to set goals and accomplish those goals? Has he made a lot of money? Has she been able to do what she was asked by her constituents to do in the state or in the nation? We don't ask about vision. And you're right, we should start asking about that again. I think the good news is this: when people do not have a vision in leadership positions, things begin to go badly. And the worse things become, the more of a wake up call it is to everyone to reconsider how we choose our leaders, to reconsider what we as leaders focus on in our activities, and to become again more like Gandhi, more like Nelson Mandela, more like Abraham Lincoln, the visionaries that you name in the past, who have led masses of people on to good results because of
Right.
the vivid vision they presented. That's a great question.
Sure, Tom. So you're very right in the sense that, it has become like a game of chess where people are just making moves to kind of win, and everything else doesn't matter, it seems. I mean, and we can observe this in almost each and every country, in each and every business, even business, right? As you mentioned, right, it has simply become a matter of making money or at the cost of everything, essentially. And that kind of takes me to the next question also. While all leaders are at some level trying to be effective, their vision for future at sustainability, preserving nature, and compassion also seems very, very limited, actually.
Yeah.
What do you think that where is this taking us?
I know you're right. We haven't thought about the most important things. And in my main philosophical tradition, deriving from ancient Greece, Socrates once said, thousands of years ago, he said, the most important things we think about and talk about the least. The least important things we think about and talk about the most. We get things
Interesting.
upside down and backwards, right? And
Okay,
so
okay.
you're right. It's almost as if we've lost our sense of the bigger picture,
Hmm.
for the sustainability of our world, for the sustainability of humankind, the kind of conservation of nature and compassion with other people that is the only pathway forward that's sustainable. But it is this gamification of everything. Like everybody playing their computer games, they've turned business into a computer game, they've turned politics into a computer game. Well, the stakes are too high for us to play it like a game. AI will be a better game player than any of us. But there's no good evidence yet that AI can be compassionate or that AI will have conservation of the earth as a value. And so it's dependent on our wisdom. I met an AI founder a year ago, and he said to me, Tom, I wanted to bring AI into companies and countries in a way that was safe and ethical. And then I met you, he said to me, and now I want to bring AI into companies and countries in a way that's safe, ethical, and wise. And I said to him, oh, you're talking about AI squared. And he said, what is that? And I said, artificial intelligence times ancient insights. I said,
Hmm.
that is what we need. We need to take wisdom and bring it to
Hmm.
people through AI. We need to take AI and use it only with wisdom. We need
Okay.
both those things together in our time. And perhaps we can spark people to the insights that you're talking about, that you so rightly point to as what exactly we need now.
Okay, very interesting. So, you got a very interesting point, like AI, which is considered generally the replacement of human beings, or, replacement of even computer programs. Ancient computer programs are being replaced by more faster and intelligent computer programs can actually be useful if in some way we can plug in the wisdom which we have collected for so many years. And I don't know whether that's possible or not, but if it can be done, probably there will be some sense even if in going ahead with AI. And you also mentioned that business and politics. Sometimes what happens is there is also this mixture of business and politics, right? Where politicians help the businessmen, and that is when it becomes extremely dangerous because both of them are interested in the gains, but both of them have no interest in kind of, let's say, sustainability or long-term thinking. There, one interesting thing I have observed is like even the citizens may not be true to everybody. Easily buy these theories where, say, let's say, a businessman comes with a great plan to take the nation forward, and with the support of a politician, though that plan essentially fails at sustainability because you will start using your natural resources very, very heavily. And after 50, 60 years, you will be kind of deplete a lot of them.
Mhm.
But people don't seem to be thinking about the next generation in that way, in the sense that, it's not far when the current generation itself will start facing that, right? In a lot of ways. We have seen cases where, there are many countries where there was so much of, I was watching some YouTube video one day where I forgot the name of the country. There, I think the whole country was dependent on potassium or some
Mhm.
mineral, which was, and governments and people kind of started, doing all this excavation and taking as much as possible. And within like 20 years, it went out of that element. And the whole country was dependent on the element. That element is a very small country, actually. When the political leadership was asked long back, like, what's your plan for the future? He says that future will kind of make a way for itself.
Yeah.
Future will
Yeah.
take care of its own. Okay. So that's the
Mhm.
if mentality of certain politicians and businessmen. They just want to worry about the now,
That's
and
right.
they are thinking somehow future will take care of itself. What?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I think it's buried deep in our evolutionary past. I think a million years ago, 100,000 years ago, our ancestors, our forebears, they needed mostly to think about right now. What happens
Mm,
now? What happens in the next 5 minutes? What happens today? Their understanding of threats deep in our the oldest parts of our brain, the threat has to be in our face for us to understand it as a threat. If a tiger came up to someone, a growling tiger, uh, it's in his face, and he reacts and he does what he needs to do. But if the threat is 10 years away, 20 years into the future, or on the other side of the world, it's hard for us to react the way we should react. We need to re-educate ourselves to the realities of the modern time frame. There was in early human prehistory, apparently people lived to be, if they were lucky, 20 years old or 30 years old. A 40-year-old person was old. Um, they didn't have to think about the next few decades the way we do now. They didn't think about the world changing for their sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters. We need to re-educate ourselves on a deep level to think on a bigger scale, to think on a longer scale. And that's going to take some work. And unfortunately, in my country right now, the United States, education is being neglected. Education is being dismantled in a lot of ways, as if it's not that important. All we need are people willing to do hard work, hard labor, but we don't need thinkers. It's
mhm,
almost as if people think AI will take over the thinking job. And I say no, that will never happen well. AI is a tool, and unless we have good purposes for the use of
mhm,
the tool, bad things will happen. I discovered as a philosopher many years ago a
mhm,
philosophical principle I think is universal, and I call it the double power principle. And here's what the principle says: for nearly everything in this world, the more power it has for good, the more equal and opposite power it has for harm. It's
Okay.
up to us how we use it. That's obviously true of nuclear energy. That's obviously true of urbanization. It's obviously true of artificial intelligence. And not enough people are thinking about it as a tool that we have to figure out how to use with
Hmm.
exactly the things in mind that you're talking about: the sustainability of the planet and the good of the people here on the planet. We need to think about both those things before we think about going to other planets. Because if we
Hmm.
take the wrong mindset to
Hmm.
interstellar travel, we just continue to mess up more and more planets. I
Sure.
think we need to get this one right.
Sometimes I, start thinking like people are so excited about going to moon as if they can fill all the tankers of water and bring to Earth. Okay, that's not going to happen, right?
No, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There are some politicians I would like to send to the moon, or
Okay.
Mars, or as far away as we can get them. But
Sure.
the philosophers have always had a hard time speaking
Hmm.
to political leaders.
Right.
Socrates, Plato tried, he got in a lot of trouble. But Plutarch, Greek named Plutarch, he was once asked, "Why do you associate with leaders so much? Why do you talk to leaders?" And he said something very interesting. Suppose I could use the same amount of time to dig a well for water for my family, or to build an aqueduct to bring water to the whole city, including my family. Which
Hmm.
should I spend my time on? He said,
Sure.
working with a leader is like building an aqueduct, because if you
Right.
can bring wisdom into the life of a leader, you will benefit many people as a result. And that's what I
Very
try to
interesting.
do as well. Most of my
Mm.
speeches, most of my work with corporations, I've been
Okay.
invited by the president, the CEO, the chairman, and that gives me a chance to do great good, not just for that individual, but for all the people they work with. I might sit at dinner with a gentleman who has 250,000 employees. If I can convince him of the wise way to do business, all 250,000 people will benefit, right? So it's a hard job, and I don't always break through with wisdom, but I always try my best. And when I see a leader coming alive with true wisdom about their work, gives me a
Hmm.
great sense of satisfaction that I've played
Sure.
some small role in that.
Mm. Right. Very, very interesting things you said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is where I think see all leaders are not good or bad. Some are like confused. So if you can kind of guide somebody and say like, if you instead of doing things like this, you do like this. Not only you help people have a better standard of living, but also you kind of max out the impact. And so it's a very noble thing to do in a way.
It
And
is. It
as
is.
you
It
also
is.
mentioned, right? I think going to the previous point where earlier days people used to plan for let's say 10 years, 20 years, not more than that because the lifespan expectation was not much. So people did not used to think about future, and that's where I think the visionary leaders are needed more. Right? People who don't just think about right now, but also about the future. And that's where we are facing this heat, where sometimes we feel that those leaders are missing, or they all have went to the moon probably.
We hear
One,
about people. Well,
yeah,
we hear about people in America, in Silicon Valley, some of the tech billionaires, trying to figure out, and they're serious about this, they're trying to figure out how to live forever.
right.
There is this new push for everlasting life, and they're looking into biology, molecular biology. They're looking into all kinds of things, and some of these are people who don't even know how to live through today well. They don't even live well through last week, and they want to live forever. I think rather than just thinking about quantity of life, they need to think more about quality of life, and that's what the philosophy has always been about. Whether it's the Gita, or whether it's in Plato, whether it's in the Buddhist traditions, whether, all world wisdom traditions have agreed on deep things in common about compassion, about the importance of what one of the earliest Greek poets, Hesiod, talked about the importance of nature and partnering up with nature, not being combating nature, not fighting nature, not enslaving nature, but being a partner with nature. If we can get back to some of those deep perspectives in most of the wisdom traditions around the world, we'll be much better off. So we live in a tumultuous time. It's a good time to be a philosopher, because maybe I can make a difference for some people
Right.
for
Sure.
good. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, Tom. Basically, we have to have correct relationship with nature, right? That's what the point is. Instead of kind of taking yourself, taking everything for granted and thinking that you are the owner of everything. That's not the right mentality, right? Whether it's
That's right.
nature or animals or plants, whatever, right? Or earth in general, you have to build a peaceful relationship with them, right? That's what harmony is about.
Exactly right. And yeah, yeah, we had this false view of nature for a while,
Hmm.
especially because of a misunderstanding of Darwin and evolution.
Hmm.
There was a movement started called social Darwinism, and the motto was nature red in tooth and claw, as if nature is always bloody, as if nature is always about fighting and combat and war. And so those who prevail over others, they are the winners, and we need to prevail not only over other human beings but over nature itself. Well, there was a book that came out about 3 years ago in the United States called Finding the Mother Tree. And it's by a woman
Okay.
named Suzanne Simard. She's a biologist, a botanist.
Okay. Okay.
And she discovered in every forest, in every woodland area, under the soil, under the ground, there's a network of not just root systems, but of other systems of communication through the plants and through the trees. And what she calls the mother tree, in every grouping of trees, she claims there will be one tree that sends extra nutrients to the trees that are struggling, the plants that are
Okay.
struggling, through the mitochondrial systems, through all kinds of underground systems. When we look at nature carefully, we learn that there's tremendous cooperation and there's
Right.
collaboration, not just competition, cooperation and collaboration. And the man I mentioned a while ago, 8th century BCE, Hesiod, he said, the way we partner with nature is we need to listen, we need to observe, we
Right.
need to learn and be humble enough to realize we are part of the system. It's not human beings versus nature. We are
Right.
part of nature, and we are taking care of ourselves if we take care of nature. It's a great perspective.
This very interesting thing that you brought up, because even during school days, right, when we used to study the Charles Darwin theory, as you mentioned, where survival of the fittest and was mentioned a lot, and it did have some kind of psychological, impact on human beings, where you become very competitive. You think that if you're not competitive enough, you will not survive, or you will not be live the life the way you want to be, which is not true. Because if you see nature, right, nature wouldn't have survived at all, right, if everyone was competitive, if every animal was competitive. Even if you see these food chains or all those things, animals never eat more than what they need actually,
That's right.
right?
Exactly.
They
Exactly.
always are content. In fact, if you see all these documentaries and all, right, with animals just like that, you will see there is a tiger sitting and the DA will be kind of, you know, grazing there around, because he knows, right, once they are not hungry, they will not attack each other. So there is lot of intelligence, there is a lot of compassion, there is a lot of relationship between, in the nature and human beings. Because of all the limitations, always see the negative side of it first and absorb it, and then they don't see the grandness of nature, essentially,
Right.
as you mentioned, right?
Exactly.
Through
Exactly.
this
And that's the
the
good. A
yeah.
podcast like this can accomplish
Mm,
such good by
mm,
reminding people of these things. You're
right,
exactly
right.
right. We need to be reminded. We forget in the complexity of our lives, in the speed of modern life, we forget some of the most basic truths. And so,
Right.
if by using books, if by using podcasts, if by using other technology, we can call people back to these
Mhm.
fundamental, important
Right.
truths, we make the world a better place.
Let's go to the next question. One important trait that we have read about great leaders is their capacity to weave practicality with deep human needs. Great leaders have always, in their capacity, tried to create policies or adopt philosophies which aligns with their deep beliefs. However, these days it is becoming very common to give validation to selfish behavior through bills and policies. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's throughout human history, there's been a tension between what's more important, the collective good, the common good, or the individual good. And there are times in history where we've favored the common good. In ancient times, the hunter-gatherer tribe, it was the tribe itself that was most important. Everyone was there to serve the good of the tribe, which then served the good of the individuals. But the focus was on the tribe, the gathering together, the family, the extended family, the village, the group. In the West, especially, there has been for a few hundred years a lopsided emphasis on the individual's rights, the individual's freedoms, the individual's good, to the point that we lose sight of the common good. I have this idea that, as in, for example, uh, some very ancient philosophies, rather than thinking of the individual and the community as opposites, we should think of them as entwined polarities, uh, complementarities, that the individual can flourish only if the community flourishes. The community can flourish only if all the individuals in the community are flourishing. The selfish behavior we've been warned about forever. In my tradition, for example, there's the most ancient epic story is the Epic of Gilgamesh, set in 2800 BCE, probably written down a few hundred years after that. A story about a selfish king. He's a bad king who only discovers in the story his limitations, and he becomes a better king. We have stories like Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein, a
Mm-hmm.
great tale for our AI time, where a
Right.
brilliant man invents something that he thinks will make him famous forever. That's his only motivation. He wants to be
Right.
great. He wants to be famous. He wants everybody to praise him. And so he gives life to a creature. But he's only thinking about himself and the benefits for himself because of his selfishness, because of his self aggrandizement. He's able to be successful in attaining his goal, but he thereby launches a monster into the world he can't control that kills everybody he cares about and ultimately him. That to me is a great cautionary tale about success
Mm.
for our time. It's a great
Yes.
cautionary tale for leaders and high achievers. Don't just think about self. Don't just be selfish and self aggrandizing. Think about others. Think about the common good, or else you'll launch into the world monsters you can't control. And those monsters might be political, they might be technological, they might be biological. But in our time, we have to get it right in this generation or the next generation, or we might not have a chance to get it right, because some of these monsters might bring the human experiment, the human adventure, to an end. And so we need to listen to those wise voices that have been trying to warn us about the wrong way to do things and the right way to do things.
Very, very truly said, Tom. In fact, in India, there is also this folktale where, five leaders, five actually very learned scholars go to a forest and they find this dead carcass of a lion, okay? Just to tell you. And what happens is all of the five are very egoistic about their knowledge of this, all the magic and all. So one says, I can put blood back into this lion. One says, I'm even greater than you. I can put, all the uh, skin and everything. The fifth one, right, kind of stops them. Hey, don't do what are you doing? But they are fighting amongst themselves, and the fifth one kind of goes and climbs up a tree. The four other knowledgeable people actually end up giving life to the lion, and the lion eats them back. Okay, they don't
So
realize that what they are creating is going to eat them only. And so
we need
the
that.
point is like, yeah,
Yeah, that we need to
being
have
very,
big picture
yeah,
thinking to avoid things like
right,
that. You're exactly
right,
right.
right.
Because our capacity to create
Mm-hmm.
often outstrips our capacity for wisdom. And so we
Right.
need to keep those in line. We need to be training our students in every college, every university, every school on basic wisdom. Because if we just train them in technology, we're going to create exactly the kind of situation you're talking about.
Sure. Okay. Going to the last question, Tom, basically. Another aspect is most of the great leaders have also tried to see the whole humanity together as a family, be it through their words, actions, or relationships. However, today all political relationships seem to be based on power and violence. Brutality has become very commonplace, and compassion has been thrown away as outright impractical. How do you think this can be dealt with?
Yeah, we need to re educate people in history. Violence has never attained what it set out to attain. Violence has always, sometimes when it hits solve problems, it's created new problems. Violence is not a sustainable approach. And there are people in the business world who use more moderate versions of violence, force, threats, manipulations to try to attain their ends. But when we look at the sweep of human history, we see that that always creates new problems. It's not practical. It's the opposite of practical because a victory won with violence always creates more problems than it solved. So the wise path, and again, we talk about the great leaders of the past. I want them to inspire us to all be leaders. I think we have a lot of false views of leadership in our time. One of the views is that there are very few real leaders, and the rest of us are followers. I think everybody can have a leadership mindset because to me, a leadership is a leadership mindset is just a person who sees an opportunity or a problem. They want to solve the problem or they want to seize the opportunity and they inspire other people to get involved as well. As they set an example, they involve other people to do something positive, to solve a problem or seize an opportunity. We can all have that mindset and not just leave it to the political leaders, the business leaders. We should all be leaders within our own sphere of influence. And we can all bring positive values and wisdom because I talk to a lot of young people who say, hey, I don't know if I'll ever be president of a company or governor of a state. How can I be a leader? You can be a leader wherever you are. I walk in my neighborhood every day. I take 2 exercise walks. If I see a piece of paper on the street, trash on the street, I reach down and pick it up. I take the initiative. I don't wait for somebody else to do it, right? If I see something that I can't do by myself, I'll try to get a couple of neighbors together. Hey, let's go take care of this problem. I'm being a leader. Now, there are other times when I need to be a follower. In fact, here's another misunderstanding of leadership. A lot of people say, well, to be a great leader, you once upon a time should have been a great follower. And then you graduate into being a leader, as if those are 2 stages in a person's life. You're a follower when you're young, and you're a leader
Okay.
later on. But I have talked to great leaders of our time who say to me something like this. A CEO will say, if I hire the right people, if I've got the right chief operational officer, chief financial officer, head of human resources, they are more expert in their areas than I am. So to be a great
Great.
leader, I need to follow their advice. I need to follow their lead. So to be a great leader, it's not that once upon a time you should have been a great follower, but you have to
Okay.
continue to follow
Okay.
the golden rule, to follow compassion, to follow sustainability, to follow the experts in your field or outside your field whose advice you need. So it's not an alternative. Am I going to be a follower or am I going to be a leader? To do each of those things, you need to also be doing the other. Again, entwined polarities, complementarities rather than opposites. I love to see the unity beneath the surface differences, even of leadership and followership. If we can convince more people to be leaders in their homes, in their villages, in their cities, then we're going to have more of those good leaders rise to the top to be great leaders over larger domains. But we
Okay.
have not, it's almost like in the sports world. You start kids out playing a sport, and some of those kids are going to be so good they rise up and become Olympic champions, right? But we've got to be training people in leadership in small ways to have the right ones rise up to be the equivalent of Olympic champions in leadership. I think we know now that we need to do that in a way that we didn't realize 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So I have hope for humanity. And part of that hope is because of podcasts just like this.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks so much. I think it's a very important thing, and also the advice you gave about leadership, right? Leadership and followership are 2 parallel things. You don't have to choose one out of the other. And if you are kind of following others, you are kind of helping others kind of have impact. Impact is important, I think, here. If somebody can bring positive impact either by himself or by kind of allowing others, both are sign of probably great,
Yeah.
leadership in a way.
That's
Okay.
right. You're absolutely right. A leader is somebody who takes the initiative to act and has a positive impact on the world because of the way they inspire others. And if we can teach children to do that and teach children to be visionary, even in their young years, they will grow up to be adult visionaries and they will grow into those leadership positions that we need visionaries in right now.
Sure. One side point, Tom, I think this came to my mind while we're discussing, right? You mentioned that there are many good people. They may not be in the leadership position for whatever reasons. I think it's also that a lot of people are not interested in power, right? And a common man who is happy with his family, let's say with his work, he doesn't really crave power. And that's a kind of a problem because people who want power will get power, right? Because they will act upon it. They will start making connections to get power. And when those people come into power, they create problems, right? So it's a catch-22 kind of situation where you don't need power, you don't want power, you don't crave power, but you end up becoming victim of power in a way.
You're
Just your
right.
thoughts, right?
It's a paradoxical thing. And so we need
Okay.
to train people in feeling a sense of duty or obligation to be leaders in any way they can. Not just the people who want the power, but the people who are willing to take on power to use it for the greater good. Sometimes the reluctant leader, the leader who doesn't really want to be a leader, can become the best leader because they don't have any selfish motives in operation. They just see a problem that needs to be solved and they say, okay, nobody else is doing this. I guess I better do it. Those are the people who become some of the best leaders, I think.
Oh, very interesting, Tom. Because these questions keep coming in our minds all the time, right? Like we know some people are very good, but they will never take leadership positions. There's a lot old saying that power is corruption, right? And people are very sensitive about it sometimes. They don't
That's
want to hold powers which can change their mind, right? Or attitude towards something. But as you mentioned, right, if you are very, very sure about what you want to do, probably taking positions is not really that bad a thing. You know.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Thanks,
That's
Tom. I mean, tremendous discussion, and there was a lot of great insights. Hope people who are watching it will take it seriously, and it will help them introspect. I don't know what are the action items, but at least if they become aware, like what is happening in the world and what role they can play. These people should be a little bit aware, right? Because because of lack of awareness, also a lot of times all these politicians or businessmen start taking things for ride, and it's our own sustainability that comes to the risk, right? Uh,
you're right.
Tom, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so I invite your viewers, your listeners to come to my website, explore the
Okay,
resources there. It's www.tom, T-O-M-V, as in Victor, Morris, M-O-R-R-I-S, tomvmorris.com.
sure.
And
Okay,
my books are there. I've published 30 some books already. I'm
okay.
working on three or four at the same time now. One about the Frankenstein story that should be out next. That will be my next book. But hopefully we can raise awareness. Like you say, that's the most important thing. That's where it all starts. Because for a leader to take action, for a good leader to take action to solve a problem or seize an opportunity, they have to be aware of the problem. They have to be aware of the opportunity. Awareness is the most important thing. Just like power can corrupt, so can money, so can fame, so can status. All these externals can corrupt, but if we are aware of that problem, we can more likely avoid the problem and have better people coming into leadership positions who actually are concerned about the good of others and the good of our world. And that's exactly what we need now.
Thanks for your time. It was a great discussion. I'm sure people who had taken note. TomVMorris.com is the website where you can go and check out the work of Tom. And you can also connect with Tom on LinkedIn if you have something to discuss or share. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for your time. It's a great pleasure to have you on the show. I know you are very busy, you're very occupied, but thanks for taking time out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pradeep. It was a wonderful time to spend together. Thank you for inviting me on.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice day. To all the viewers also, do drop your comments regarding this. Let us just initiate the discussion at least, like what do you think about these topics? Because we discussed a lot about business, politics, policies, and all those things, but the underlying things, right? The state of mind we don't discuss much, which is very important. So that's the idea behind this discussion. Do you guys find this interesting? Do you guys find this relevant? What do you
Yeah.
think about it? Do let us know. Do subscribe, and thanks for your time. Have a
Yeah.
nice day.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's, you're so right.
Thanks.